force nature. Sometimes we underestimate its power. But then, when we least expect it, nature throws us a curve. As Hurricane Katrina targets the Gulf Coast, millions of people are forced to evacuate. However, some people choose to stay where they think they will be the safest, close to home. Kent Freilich, a commercial fisherman in Empire, Louisiana, decides to ride out the storm on his big shrimping boat.
I was born and raised on boats. I had a real good idea of what was going to happen when the storm came through, and I felt we would be safer here than going up the river.
For others, leaving is not an option. Iggy Rosales, a firefighter with the local fire department, is assigned to work as the storm rapidly approaches.
We were all on duty just before the hurricane actually hit the New Orleans area. We were pretty much in our staging areas. And during the hurricane, I was assigned as the medical officer.
With the hurricane bearing down on Kent's operation, he begins to make drastic plans to secure his boat.
We were anticipating a 25-foot storm surge, and we were moored for that. We had 32 lines set up to tie us off tight to the dock before the water come up.
Early Monday morning, August 29th, Hurricane Katrina makes landfall, slamming the New Orleans area with hurricane-force winds. Inside his boat, Kent grabs his video camera as Katrina barrels down on the Gulf Coast.
Winds were blowing 130, 140 miles an hour, and maybe more. We had reports on a ship that was anchored in the river behind us. It had a wind gauge that went out at 130. It blew it out, and that was 2 hours before the worst part got here. So
the water is at a level Kent has never seen before.
Well, water come up quick, didn't it? Hey, I see it on this side.
4:30 Monday morning, the water, that's when it came over the levees and when we started rising.
Back near New Orleans, Iggy Rosales is called to several fires that have been caused by Katrina's ferocious winds.
The majority of the fires that started during a hurricane, it was probably due to electrical. Power lines that were down lying on houses and on streets and in the middle of this fire, all of this stuff was live wires we were dealing with.
Fighting a raging inferno in the middle of a Category 4 hurricane. The local fire departments have all they can handle.
If you have one structure on fire, on a normal day, without wind being a factor, the fire can pretty much be contained just to that structure. But when you add winds, and especially the kind of winds we were dealing with, you're actually pushing the flames on top of other buildings.
For Iggy Rosales and the rest of the Kenner, Louisiana Fire Department, it's clearly never been worse than this. Winds are so fierce, the firefighters are forced to battle the blaze, crouched close to the ground.
Guys were having a tough time standing up. We had a tough time putting water on the fire because the wind was just pushing our water. It just seemed like we really were making no effect.
Due to the high winds, the fire department is forced to call it quits. Some fires will not be able to be put out.
We had to retreat, and that was the first time in this department's history where we actually just left the fire, and the fire was still raging.
Back in the Empire boat harbor, Kent is still hanging on for his life as the storm surge quickly rises.
Felt like we were just out of breath for 2 hours, and the pressure's pushing in on your ears. You can feel them popping.
Kent knows that the backside of the eye wall is quickly approaching.
It was hard to believe that we just went through 150-mile-an-hour winds and the wind just died down within minutes. And to slick, calm, quiet conditions was very spooky.
Videotaping from his boat, Kent notices two capsized men clinging to the top of an ice machine.
We could see them on top of that ice machine, and we were just relieved to see that they were alive.
The two exhausted men crawl through the debris to the safety of Kent's boat.
And we pulled them on board with us and gave them a shower and something to eat. And we were just happy that they were alive.
You made it.
With the 2 men on board, Kent spots another survivor, a tired and wet dog clinging to a piece of debris.
We couldn't get him to get back in that water to swim to us, so he spent a hard 6 hours on top of that forklift.
After a few more hours of pounding, the storm finally passes. Iggy soon realizes the epic proportions of damage.
There were several apartment complexes that were just rubble. We had trees everywhere. You didn't even know where the street was at. It just looked like one giant lake. As far as the eye could see, it was water.
Kent also feels the storm's terrible aftermath.
When you sit and watch your hometown get turned upside down and all your fellow fishermen and neighbors just get destroyed, it's hard to deal with it. And that's the dog that was on the forklift. He used to be mean, but he's happy to see me now.
Kent begins a massive cleanup, determined to rebuild his life on the water.
We stayed and we saved the boats as we got the canal cleared in front of us. We were able to move out and we went back to work about 2 weeks after the storm.
And many months later, the pieces of the shattered lives of the people of Empire are slowly coming back together.
People are back on their feet and we all getting back together. The boats are getting put back together, and hopefully by the summer, all my friends and fellow fishermen will be back in operation and doing good again.
For Kent and Iggy, it's more a reminder about the power of nature.
We deal with nature every day, and you have to have respect for it.
You can have all the training in the world, all the best equipment in the world, but you can't tame it. You just can't tame it.